go, Ferrucci leading the field to green. Let's go from Portland, and what a run for Will Power coming down into turn one.
It was an early jump from Ferrucci. That gave Power the draft, but he's trying to hold it on the outside, side by side, and one. Power is going to take it around the outside of two.
I thought Ferrucci touched right front to left rear of Will Power. It looks like he comes away unscathed, but Will Power being bold and decisive into the first corner.
That yellow and red car is the championship leader, Alex Palou in third. The green and black, Romain Grosjean, who has not won in more than a decade. Two, he is in play today.
He's made a great start, up from sixth on the grid to fourth. And we see some moves now. That's on to Dixon into turn seven. Is that Kirkwood? We've seen this before, Townsend. Drivers getting pushed wide on the exit there. Dixon falling like a rock.
Massive penalty.
Contact.
This will be a big hit.
Dixon hard into the wall. One of the championship contenders is out and done.
We've seen this move a lot the last year. Passes on the inside of seven, push a car wide. Everyone's trying to get around. It's three wide there. That's at the 30.
Pietro Fittipaldi.
Headed back towards the chicane, this time single file.
How aggressive is Romain Grosjean with the championship leader, but further back, Newgarden getting defensive with Kirkwood there.
Kirkwood trying to make moves after that engine penalty knocked him down a bunch of spots in qualifying. Both of those drivers on those softer red sidewalled Firestones.
And Pietro Fittipaldi is getting an avoidable contact penalty, so he will have to give up his great position, 13th, and do the drive-through. And David Malukas is the biggest mover so far, and there's the championship leader. He has moved up to second. Palou scores more points. Ferrucci drops to third.
Oh, yeah. Contact down in turn one, seemingly, at least a car backwards, as Pietro Fittipaldi and Connor Daly get together.
So Fittipaldi comes to the inside, looking for the overtake. Is he there enough?
Pietro was supposed to make a hard left.
No, it's right front to left rear, fully locked up.
Palou is going to take a look around the outside. Maybe try to do the switch back here. Traffic could impact things. Palou on the charge. Pressure coming. Championship contenders and the leader right there in that yellow car trying to move to the lead of this race.
Both drivers on the push to pass, but as Palou pulls out, Power stays in line with the 30, so he's able to get that draft. Palou can't get a run as the 30 pulls off to serve another drive-through penalty for avoidable contact, but race on at the front.
That was not a great stop, Dylan. 9.2 seconds for Alex Palou as Power comes down the front straight.
Headed down towards the chicane, and Power is going to maintain the advantage.
Easily gets it done. I think you called it there, Townsend. That stop a little bit slow, and even with the seeming advantage of doing the overcut there, staying out that lap longer, was not enough for Palou.
Toby Sowery, the rookie, trying to go around the outside.
This is not what Kirkwood needs. He wants that fresh air, that clean racetrack that he can see in front of him. If Sowery gets around, it's going to kill that, but it's going to be a big dive into seven. Who's going to blink?
Remember what he did to Scott Dixon earlier in the race. Sowery backs off, tries to do the cross-up. Kirkwood's going to defend aggressively, I think, right here.
He's giving the inside to the 51. There's a lot of marbles off track already, but he's got the preferred line. It might be advantage Toby into the chicane. Grosjean.
As Romain Grosjean is stalled.
What?
And backwards. Did he get help?
Brutal result after a great run going. These hybrid systems should technically allow you to restart, and that was, he had it running.
He got that left rear kicker as he is able to restart his car and comes right in front of Christian Rasmussen.
That was lazy. That was foolish to not look in your mirror and know what was coming when you're turning. He just did it again.
Just about got Toby Sowery there, I think.
Got the flat. He didn't get hit. He drove straight into the 20. That's the wrong way of wording that one. And oh no.
He went 2 years without a win. Now in 2 months, Will Power has won 3 times. Power wins at Portland to keep his championship hopes alive.
Up next, it's the Hy-Vee Milwaukee Mile 250 Race 1, Saturday, August 31st. Watch it at 6 p.m. on Peacock.
Welcome to the Push to Pass podcast, episode number 65. This evening, thanks for joining us. We're going to first review what was the BitNile Grand Prix of Portland this past weekend. Obviously, huge congratulations goes out to Will Power for collecting his series-leading third win of the season, and I do believe that was his 44th career victory as well. So huge congratulations, obviously, goes out to him. And then obviously we're going to analyze, discuss, and break down, like I said, what was the BitNile.com Grand Prix of Portland. And then as well, we'll take a look at the last doubleheader of the season that we have coming up this weekend in Milwaukee for the Hy-Vee Milwaukee Mile 250. So we'll get into that here more as the show unfolds. And then obviously we'll be joined later in the show by Mike, our betting expert, to see what he did last week. And I believe, if memory serves me correctly, that he was in Vegas last weekend. So hopefully he was able to score some money in for Portland. And then we'll take a look forward as well, obviously, to Milwaukee. And then also later in the show as well, we'll have the official weatherman of the Push to Pass podcast stopping by to take a look at the weather forecast this weekend for Milwaukee. And I hope it's not the way it is here in central Indiana, where it is hot. Unfortunately, hopefully this is the last heat wave that goes through for 2024. But before we get into all of that, I have two other introduced to you that are here on a weekly basis. First and foremost, joining us as usual, Josh Roberts is back with us. Josh, we'll get more into, obviously, what we witnessed this past weekend. But before we do, how are things over there in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, pretty good. Can't complain too much. Family's healthy. It may be hot outside, but air conditioning is keeping up, so we're all doing good.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully those air conditioners are tuned up just one more time, hopefully. Also, too, joining us on his weekly basis as well, coming off of, if you pay attention to his social media, it was National Dog Week this past week or a couple days ago, and I know he featured his dog in National Dog Week there as well. Michael Monroe is joining us. Michael, how are things over there in your neck of the woods?
Yes, well, unlike Josh, my air conditioner is not keeping up. We are running at 68 degrees here at the house, and everyone's probably like, oh, that's perfectly fine. Not when you're normally at 65. So I like an ice box, and right now it's a little too hot in here. So hopefully we can get it cooled down. I need some of these storms to push in so it helps cool down. But no, so far, a pretty good week. National Dog Day. I did have the dog going there on social media. So, yeah, so far so good. And we'll see what this weekend does for us in Milwaukee.
I don't know. I like the cold. I like keeping my house cold, but I don't know if 65 would suit me. I usually keep mine between 70 and 72. I can't imagine what it'd be like stepping into a 65 degree house. I don't say it very much, but I might be rather cold if I
think I froze you on the way to Mid-Ohio.
But yes, we have some business to take care of first before we get to Milwaukee. Obviously, like I said, this past weekend we were in Portland. Well, we weren't, but the NTT IndyCar Series was in Portland, Oregon for the BitNile.com Grand Prix of Portland, and I was able to sit down and watch the race, and I did get to my 5 takeaways. I know Josh and Michael look forward to either agreeing or disagreeing with my 5 takeaways from each race. So let's get to the fifth takeaway, like I said, first and foremost, huge congratulations goes out to Will Power and the whole number 12 Verizon Business Team Penske crew, obviously, for their win at the 12-turn, 1.964-mile road course at Portland International Raceway. Like I said, the bitnile.com Grand Prix of Portland. As I mentioned in the opening segment there, this does mark Will Power's 44th career NTT IndyCar Series victory. He does have a series-leading 3 victories this season, and this actually gives Team Penske their 80th win, if my math is correct, in the IndyCar Series. Now, my 5 takeaways, number 5, I think, has to be maybe one of the bigger stories in the opening laps that we just watched in the opening video. There has to be Scott Dixon's championship dreams obviously hit the wall, literally hit the wall on Sunday there. Coming into this past weekend's race in Portland, Scott Dixon was obviously within striking distance of his Chip Ganassi Racing teammate there, Alex Palou. He was just 65 points behind, and his championship dreams were obviously within reach. But thanks to Pietro Fittipaldi, and this could obviously be argued in the number 30 Honda for Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan Racing, and Kyle Kirkwood in the number 27 Auto Nation Honda for Andretti Global. Dixon's championship dreams were all but literally up in smoke on the opening lap when he was driven off of the course and ultimately put into the wall, which forced Dixon to finish dead last. And that now moves him 101 points behind teammate Alex Palou with just 3 rounds left. And obviously it's going to be an uphill climb for Scott Dixon. He is all but eliminated from the championship race with just 3 rounds left to go. Kind of curious to get Josh and Michael's thoughts both on the opening caution of the race there on Sunday, causing Scott Dixon to retire early.
Once again, overzealous drivers trying to make a move on the first couple laps of the race, and it ended up costing Scott Dixon not only a chance to win the race, which I don't think he had a chance. I think Will Power was just too dominant over this past weekend, even though he didn't get the pole. But cost Scott Dixon a chance to have a win and to also continue to try to run down Palou, like Derek was saying. Yeah, I mean, this is just Fittipaldi just being too over anxious, trying to correct too much, trying not to hit somebody, and ended up hitting the wily veteran Scott Dixon and putting him into the wall. It was a shame to see. I for one was glad I didn't choose him in my pick this week, but I know Dixon's got to be fuming. I can't imagine that he did not go over to Fittipaldi's pit and talk to maybe Fittipaldi after the race, or maybe have a few choice words for his pit crew. But it was a scary thing seeing him go across that grass and hitting that wall so hard. I know that's not how Scott Dixon wanted his 2024 NTT points chase to go and end, but he'll be back next year. I have no doubt about it, and he'll be trying to go at it again.
Yeah, I think actually it was a tough break for Fittipaldi. That penalty I don't think it was justified. I know Hinch thought that as well. I believe after Dixon got forced off by Kirkwood, it was just a situation where Dixon wasn't up to speed and drivers are going for it on the first lap. At one point, they were 3 wide there, and I believe it was with Rossi and Fittipaldi, and then Dixon on the outside, which ended up causing that issue. But yeah, Dixon, tough break for him. I think looking at the overall picture, I didn't think he would make the make a good run for the championship. He just hasn't been the dominant Scott Dixon we've seen in years past. But at the same time, I think he could have had a shot at Portland just for the simple fact that it did go green for so long, and we know how Scott Dixon can save fuel. So it would have been fun to see him work through the field, but really just didn't have a chance.
Yeah, I think you're both are on point there. But to what Josh said, if you go over and watch David Land, friend of the show, I know we've all met him numerous occasions. During his live on Patreon during the race, Scott Dixon, Josh, and I don't know if you know this or not, actually was interviewed and asked about this, and he 100% did not blame Fittipaldi for this, which was a surprise. And if you go over and watch David Land's video that he did after the race on Sunday, he puts his live reaction from what Scott Dixon said, and David Land loses his ever-loving mind, to say the least. But yeah, Scott Dixon did come out and say that he did not blame Fittipaldi for this. So interesting take there. But yeah, I think Michael's absolutely right, and Josh as well. Scott Dixon, not a Scott Dixon year. Now, does that have to do with him getting older and maybe, father time catching up with him a little bit? That's a possibility. But yeah, it would have been awful tough for Scott Dixon to catch Alex Palou. So I think you're both right there. Number 4 takeaway. I thought it was a great weekend for Santino Ferrucci. Obviously, he grabbed the pole this weekend, which I think raised some eyebrows, and then also walking away with a top 10. I thought that was a great weekend for him. But as I said, entering the weekend, Santino Ferrucci, in recent memory, was only able to make noise on ovals. I know Indianapolis comes to mind the last couple years, putting that number 14 out there in the lead. But other than that, he really hasn't been a factor anywhere else. But like I said, after qualifying on Saturday, a lot of eyebrows, I think, were raised when they seen that the number 14 Phoenix Investors Chevrolet for AJ Foyt Racing was able to collect his first P1 award of his career. For people that didn't know, and I don't know if you two were aware of this or not, but it's been over a decade since AJ Foyt was able to put a driver on pole. And if you remember correctly, that was Takuma Sato in 2014 in Detroit. So I don't know if either one of you two knew that or not. But even though Ferrucci couldn't hold the lead for a single lap, I still felt that it was a solid performance, solid weekend for Ferrucci, grabbing his first P1 award and then able to get a top 10 finish. And I just felt that was a big leap, not only for Santino Ferrucci, but for AJ Foyt Racing going forward, because next year, obviously, David Malukas comes to the stable as well. Kind of curious to get your guys' thoughts on that.
Definitely a good showing for Ferrucci, somebody that we don't normally see up front. And like you said, AJ Foyt hasn't put a driver on the pole in such a long time, so that had to have brought a big smile to AJ Foyt's face. I'm torn on this one because he got the pole, but like you said, he didn't even lead a lap. I don't even know if he led half a lap so I don't know what changed from the day before when he was able to grab the pole to when they started going racing. It didn't seem like Will Power had any problems whatsoever getting around him. But on a positive note, he came away with the pole. He's got that sticker he gets to put on his car, which I think is interesting. You're putting a sticker on a car, but I guess that's neither here nor there. And he got a top 10. That's one of the best things. Top 10. Build upon that. Take that to Milwaukee, where you got 2 races, and like we know, Santino's really good. He's good on ovals, so maybe he'll be able to take that momentum and the top 10 finish and prosper better and hold if he gets a lead, hold it more than just half a lap for at Milwaukee.
Yeah, I'm actually slightly disappointed that Ferrucci didn't hold the lead longer than he did, and also I felt like he should have finished better. When we were at Mid Ohio, he finished 10th, and he come through the field pretty quick. So putting one lap together is pretty impressive, and it can happen a lot to get the pole, but to be consistent. But I do see some of that Penske alliance coming into the fold with the technical alliance there. You've seen how fast Power was. Ferrucci was pretty quick, obviously getting the pole. Newgarden come through the field pretty quick, and so did Scott McLaughlin. So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting. Hopefully that alliance helps AJ Foyt Racing continue to steadily continue in the top 10. Ferrucci has been pretty dominant on top 10s this year. It's been an impressive thing for that team, how many top 10s he has, especially coming off of last year, which was pretty dismal for him besides the ovals. So to see him coming alive on the road courses, street courses, and the ovals, he's getting in his groove with this IndyCar. And we have to remember too, he come from NASCAR, so he's used to driving those heavy cars. So he's finally figuring out these lighter cars. So I think the longer he can continue to stay in the IndyCar and focus fully on the IndyCar, the better and better he's going to get.
Yeah, I think you both bring up very, very valid points. And Michael, if memory people don't know, you're absolutely right. That's where Ferrucci came from. So he's learning on the fly, as some of these other drivers are. So to put pole or to collect a pole and a top 10 there, I think is yeoman's work there for Santino Ferrucci for sure. Third takeaway, and I think both of you may have a little bit to say about this, but I thought it was a clean race. Outside of the wreck that occurred during lap 1, obviously with Alexander Rossi in the number 7 Velo Chevrolet for Arrow McLaren, along with Scott Dixon and Pietro Fittipaldi for the first 4 laps of the race. I thought it was very clean from lap 5 to the last lap of lap 110. But I will say with a caveat to that I thought there were some questionable, if not interesting, calls made by race control throughout the race. Kind of curious to get both of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, both Pietro Fittipaldi's drive-through penalties for avoidable contact. I mean, you could the first one you could dispute a little bit. Maybe he was pushed into Dixon. Maybe it shouldn't have been called, but it was. As far as the race, I'm going to admit I'm more of I like to watch up front and watch the battle for the leads, and that didn't really happen. It was pretty much a start to finish dominance for Will Power this past weekend. It's kind of a uneventful race for me. I like to see passes up front. I like to see battling, but there wasn't really that much. I question whether Polo. I mean, there was once or twice where he was trying, where it looked like he was actually trying to take the lead and win the race, but I kind of felt like he was just driving around, trying not to wreck. Looking at the fact that even if he finished second and Power finished first, Power was only going to gain 2 points on him, and then we only have 3 races left for the year. So it was a semi-boring race for me to watch. In all likelihood, for me, I I was not interested too much. I was off in the background doing a bunch of other stuff, so it wasn't holding my interest like some races do. But I mean, you're going to get that sometimes with these road courses where it's just going to be follow the leader, kind of a reminiscent of an F1 race. You know, somebody gets in the lead and just finishes out the rest of the race without any problems, and nobody really challenges them. So hopefully this coming weekend we'll have 2 great races at Milwaukee, and it'll keep my attention a little bit more. Although it is college football weekend, so that's going to be really hard to do.
So it was a clean race. It kind of reminded me of Mid-Ohio. We had that Scott Dixon incident with the hybrid unit at Mid-Ohio. It's kind of funny how those 2 races kind of work together. And then Scott Dixon's incident here. And then the race went green. I did like the tire strategy. I thought that was pretty interesting how some people started on the scuff reds. Some people, started on the primaries. So I always like the tire game. I love the alternate tire strategies. I think it does bring a different factor into the race that you don't get in other series. So looking at it, you did bring up Alexander Rossi. My big question from this weekend is, where was McLaren? They were nowhere to be found. Pato got lapped at one point, which is very strange, especially for someone who's in the championship hunt. Normally someone in the championship hunt runs pretty consistent in the top 5 to 7 week in and week out. So for them to be that far out in left field was pretty interesting. As far as the follow the leader, yeah, it kind of was. Palou he made that one move on power when Fittipaldi was getting ready to serve a penalty. But other than that, I think you're right, Josh. I think Palou just kind of was hanging out. It could come back to bite him at Milwaukee, depending on how that race goes. I mean, he crashed out at Iowa, so if he has 2 more DNFs, that could come back to bite him. So we'll see what happens. There's only a few drivers in the field, and I know we're jumping ahead a little bit, but I know there's only a couple of drivers in the field that have run at Milwaukee before. So it's definitely going to be an interesting weekend. You're going to have to put your college football on the record, and we're going to have to watch the IndyCar race.
Yeah, I think you both bring up great points, and you both brought up Alex Palou, and I think this is a great transition because he's the number 2 takeaway from the race weekend. He is now just one step closer, I think, to collecting back-to-back championships from this weekend. Obviously, I've talked about in the past, being consistent is the name of the game, and I think that's the game Alex Palou is playing right now with these 3 races left to go. The doubleheader, Milwaukee, and Nashville going forward as well. Entering Sunday's race, Palou had a 59 point lead over Colton Herta in the number 26 Gamebridge Honda for Andretti Global. But after Sunday, the 2-time and defending series champion does lead Will Power by 54 points. Now, keep in mind, that is the max number that a driver can earn in one race is 54 points. So definitely Power has his work cut out for him. While obviously Herta slipped from 2nd to 3rd in points, 67 behind Palou with just 3 races remaining, all on ovals. So keep that in mind as well. Obviously, the Hy-Vee Milwaukee 250s this weekend, and then the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix on September 15th at not downtown Nashville. No, at the Nashville Super Speedway. So kind of curious to get both of your guys' thoughts. I just thought that, again, Alex Palou, Mr. Consistency, just playing the consistent game there to hold on to the points lead as he has it with just 3 more rounds left.
Yep. I mean, that is his name, Mr. Consistency. I mean, he's hardly ever not finishing a race, and when he he has some times where he doesn't finish races. Of course, I mean, not every driver is perfect, but for the most part, he just drives around, and if he sees a chance to win, he'll take it. But if not, he just wants to finish in that top 5 and secure his third Astro Cup coming up this year. Probably, I mean, as much as I see Will Power being a threat to him, I just don't see him being able to run him down. So, and it'll be interesting if Palou does win this year. Does he look for a different challenge? I mean, going back to back, being a three-time IndyCar champ. I don't know what more there is to do in the series. Is there a certain circuit out there that he wants to try to catch a ride on that he's tried to before but was denied? I mean, only time will tell. But Palou just is a man on a mission, and I think he's going to complete his mission here in about 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, Josh, you bring up some good points. Derek, you as well. His consistency is great. Coming from a NASCAR side of things, kind of the chaos. If you watched the NASCAR race this past weekend, I'm going to try and merge the two series a little bit. And, you know, part of why NASCAR decided to come up with their playoff series, whether fans like it or not, is to kind of bring that drama into things. I'm not saying IndyCar needs anything like that, but it did bring a twist to things. This kind of points racing it is what that kind of prevents. But at the same time, Palou is very consistent. Josh, I wonder if you were kind of hinting at maybe Palou going to Formula One.
That's a possibility. I heard there was somebody that I can't remember. It's been a little while ago that was looking to start up a new team in Formula One. And I mean, if I'm looking at drivers that are in America, there's 2 different drivers I would look to. I would look to Alex Palou, and I would go over to NASCAR, and I would look at
Kyle Larson.
Kyle Larson, there we go. I couldn't remember. It just escaped my brain there for a second. But I'd look at those 2 drivers because, I mean, Larson knows that everyone knows Larson can. You give him something that's got an engine and he'll make it go. And Palou would also be in my top 2 just because he's shown that he can win an open wheel. It's a different form of open wheel, but he shows he can win an open wheel.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. As someone who follows just about all forms of racing, Formula One's, I mean, it's hard to get into. Anyone that follows Formula One, you know that Logan Sargent got released early from his contract with Williams today. He's no longer in that car. So for Palou to go over, and I believe that's why he decided to stay at Chip Ganassi. I don't know if I touched on that last week, if we talked about that a little bit, or if that was someone I was tweeting with. But I believe that's why Palou decided to stay with Chip Ganassi, because McLaren has their Formula One program locked up. And I wouldn't see another team going out and grabbing Palou just for grabbing Palou. I mean, he would have to sit in a developmental F2 ride or be their reserve driver for a year or 2. So I don't see him. I see him staying in IndyCar until he can either work that out, or he just stays in IndyCar and decides maybe he wants to go the sports car route, or even run in the IMSA series. I think he'd be a great fit for the IMSA series. It'd be a different challenge for him.
It'll definitely be interesting to see what Alex Palou does decide to do if and when he does secure his third Astro Cup and potentially back back-to-back years. Last takeaway that I had, and I think Josh kind of stole the thunder a little bit, was just how dominant Will Power was on Sunday. To me, this looked like the old Will Power. Now, I know obviously he may have aged a little bit, but this just reminded me of the old Will Power, and he made a statement on Sunday to me that it's not quite time yet to crown Alex Palou, as we were just talking about the series champion. Michaels from the jump there. Power did take the lead and obviously didn't look back. Led a race high 101 laps. So, I just felt a dominating performance by Will Power keeps his championship hopes alive. And again, put out the statement out there that, we're not going to crown Alex Palou the champion just yet. There's a few more drivers that are still hungry to collect maybe their first Astro Cup.
Definitely. As my wife said on Sunday when she saw who won the race, Will Power had the willpower to win that race, and he's had the willpower to win all three races that he's won this year. Him like Scott Dixon, they're wily veterans. They know how to go out there and win. It was a dominant performance. I don't know the exact stat. Maybe somebody said it, but I know he led close to 90% of the laps, I do believe. So he and his team had one heck of a strategy to be able to go out there and just dominate a field of professional drivers on Sunday. Those drivers are no slouch, and he was just running away from them. I mean, I think he was running a consistent 9 seconds in front of Palou, and it was a dominant win. And there's not much more I can say about it. Maybe Mike can say a little bit more elegantly and give some other insight into it.
No, not really. I mean, it was just a pretty dominant willpower. Like Derek said, it does remind me, as someone who's followed Will Power for many years, it does remind me of old Will Power, the drive that he has. And, a lot was talked about last year, and it was brought up again, his wife's medical issues, those kind of things, how he had that weighing on him. Was it time for him to hang it up and be, at home with his wife and his family? But I feel like getting through her medical issue and him coming back this year, getting 3 wins, definitely is where he belongs. And it'll be interesting. I know they brought it up in the broadcast. I think he has 1 year left on his contract. Will he renew? That'd be an interesting topic to follow potentially next year.
Yeah, it absolutely will. It'll be it will for sure, and we'll cover that here as that unfolds later down the road. But before we get to the race results, let's listen to the aforementioned Will Power on his win on Sunday.
Career win number 44, third of the year for Will Power. Yeah, with Will Power, career win number 44 for you today. This is the first time since 2018 you've had 3 victories in one season. What is different about this year, and is this a new Will Power we're seeing?
No, not new, man. Come on, I've won races before. But, I'm just working hard. I'm enjoying the craft. Feel very lucky to be in this series and with this team. And days like this, hard to do. So many good drivers, so many good teams. To execute like that feels very good.
Talk about that dominance, and your crew did such a fantastic job to be gapped with Alex Palou by 1.5 seconds, and then to finish 5 seconds plus. That was quite a feat.
Yeah, I mean, they picked the strategy really well. I just did my job and got them fuel numbers and kind of kept my eye on Palou behind me. I could see the gap open and close, but I knew we had a better car. It was just a matter of getting through that traffic. That last stint where we had new tires, very strong.
Not to jump too far ahead, but we're back to the Milwaukee Mile for a doubleheader. You won there. You did very good in the test as well. This could be a strong finish for you in the remaining 3 races of 2024.
Yeah, it could be very strong. I've been very strong on all the ovals this year, and won at Iowa, could have won last week. It was close, but yeah, looking forward to it.
Just a reminder, the last time we were in Milwaukee, you had a cream puff in your ear and I think an ear infection, so we'll make sure we avoid that if you're victorious here. But again, such a dominant performance and well done today.
Yeah, no, thank you very much.
That career win number 44, third of the year for Will Power. Yeah, with Will Power, career win number 44.
So there you have it there from the man himself, Will Power, who collected his 44th victory of his career and third of the 2024 season. What is in front of you now is the results from Sunday. If you have not seen them yet, Will Power, Alex Palou, and teammate Joseph Newgarden were the top three finishers, took podium. Then it was Colton Herta, Marcus Armstrong, Marcus Erickson. Good showing for him. Other Penske teammate Scott McLaughlin was seventh. Santino Ferrucci, Graham Rahal finishing in the top 10, and Kyle Kirkwood round out your top 10. Then it was Rinus VeeKay, Alexander Rossi, Christian Lundgaard, Felix Rosenqvist, Pato Award, Kiffin Simpson, Toby Sowery, Stingray Robb, Yuri Vips, and David Malukas round out your top 20. Then it was Nolan Siegel, Connor Daly, disappointing for Connor and the crew there, Linus Lundqvist, Jack Harvey, Pietro Fittipaldi, Christian Rasmussen, Roman Grosjean, and Scott Dixon round out the rest of the field. Switching over to what the points look like here. Again, with just 3 races left to go, things got a little tighter. It is Alex Palou, Will Power, Colton Herta are your top 3. Then Scott McLaughlin, Scott Dixon, Pato Award, Joseph Newgarden, Kyle Kirkwood, Alexander Rossi, and Santino Ferrucci round out your top 10. Then it is Felix Rosenqvist, Christian Lundgaard, Marcus Armstrong, Marcus Erickson, Rinus VeeKay, Graham Rahal, Roman Grosjean, Linus Lundqvist, Stingray Robb, and Pietro Fittipaldi round out your top 20. And then out of the full-time drivers, Kiffin Simpson would be 20. So before we get into our race picks this weekend, anything else that either one of you want to add from the race results or current point standings as of today?
No.
Yeah, the leader circle points is something that is definitely heating up. That extra $1 million is definitely heating up. 19th is the 66 with 164 points. 20th is the 41 Stingray Robb of 156. Tied for 20th is Pietro Fittipaldi with 156. And then 22nd right now is Christian Rasmussen, or the Ed Carpenter Racing number 20 at 141. They are now tied with the Juncos Hollinger 78. And 24th is the 51 with 133 points. So those points are so close right now. It's going to be very interesting to follow over the next 3 races to see who gets bumped out of that.
Yeah, and we had a little bit of discussion about that last week, and yeah, very, very important watch here to see who ends up where, because that all comes down to sponsor money for next year. So a great point there by Michael. Let's take a look at our race picks, because as everyone knows, we can really pick the field here, but we did do something a little different. As you see down there at the bottom, or actually all the way to the right-hand side, but it is all the way to the bottom. I'll touch on that here momentarily, but as you see, Josh still holds a 5-6-4 lead over myself and Michael, and we did end up adding another column there for guest pickers for each week. I'm going to see if we can get a guest picker for Milwaukee this weekend, and then for Nashville in a few weeks. But Tony Donahue was our first guest picker, and he went with Alex Palou, which if it wasn't for Will Power winning, Tony had it right. But obviously, Josh has got to be over there sweating it out a little bit because myself and Michael there are knocking on the door with just 3 races left to go over there, fellas.
Yep, I'm on a cold streak, and I just can't seem to beat to finish off my to bust my slump. I might have to get myself a slump buster here. So if anyone knows what those are, just I don't know. I was good at the beginning, and now maybe I'm just gonna have to go with the pole sitters. I'm just gonna, I keep thinking that somebody from the back of the pack's gonna be able to come up there, and I wasn't able to do it now. Derek's going to hunt me down and catch me. I swear. I think he is.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, Josh. You're going to have to hold on tight. Maybe just pick Newgard in the next 3 weeks and see what happens.
That's a good point. I may just do that.
That might not be a bad strategy at all, for sure. So until we wait for Mike to join us, let's pay a few bills here and recognize a couple sponsors that are proud sponsors of the Push to Pass podcast. First, Always Ready 1776 for all of your patriotic apparel, headwear, and needs. Make sure you go check out Always Ready 1776, and you can check them out. And something that you do want to purchase, make sure you use that promo code that you see up on your screen there, Push to Pass, for 10% off of your order. That's Always Ready 1776. Also, huge thank you to Gettum Associates for all your home design, build, and remodeling needs. Remember, it's Gettum Associates, and you can find them on the web as well at gettum.com. And if you do choose to go with their services, if you use the promo code there, Push to Pass, you will receive $250 off any design service. So huge thank you both to Always Ready 1776 and Gettum Associates for being proud sponsors of the Push to Pass podcast. So getting back into things as we wait for Mike to join us, and on cue, the man of the hour does step into the squared circle, if people know exactly what I'm talking about. But Mike, our betting expert here on the Push to Pass podcast, I know last weekend he couldn't make it because he was in Vegas betting the house on Willpower, I'm sure. But Mike, how did you make out in Vegas this past weekend?
It was a pretty good trip. I got to post. Finally got to. It was great. The sportsbook, actually. I have a couple friends in the sportsbook, so I will caveat that. But they did post IndyCar odds. They posted winner and top 3 odds, and they opened it up for me before qualifying, and they opened it up Sunday morning. They even put the race on the TV on the big screen. I posted a picture of that in the middle of the sportsbook. I mean, that wouldn't have flown on a football Sunday, but it was week 0 on a Sunday. There's really nothing going on but soccer and baseball. So got to watch the race in the sports book, and I had quite a bit of cheddar on Willpower. I posted a couple of the tickets. There was more. And then also had Power top 3, also had Newgarden top 3 tickets as well in my pocket. The only regret I had was I got a little scared. I bet Pelot as a little bit of a hedge, but it really was, there you go, no sweat. So made a couple G's on Mr. Power at 4-1 and his top 3. And I think the Joseph top 3 was plus money as well. Might have been 2-1. So yeah, man, it was, there you go, sitting at the Resorts World Sportsbook. It was a great trip to Vegas. Made a bunch of money. Got to watch IndyCar, bet on IndyCar. It was great. I had my dad with me. He bet on Power. He bet on Newgarden. We were just flowing in the money. So it was a good trip.
Definitely good to hear. If you didn't catch our race picks, I went with Willpower and made out like a bandit there as well. Anybody else that you made money off of outside of Willpower this past weekend?
No, so that's the sportsbook only gave me win and top 3 odds. I saw there were plenty of head-to-heads out there. I know a lot of people were fading Grosjean. That turned out to be good. He's terrible at that track. He does some dumb stuff and he disappoint. So anybody that bet against Grosjean, that was an easy one. That was I know the F1 Money Game guys were all, or the Apex Insider guys were all against that. So for me, I just had the only options I got in front of me were top 3 and win. I did post a Newgarden group bet. I got a little bit of that. They posted his same number in his group bet as his top 3, which is not smart. So that was an easy bet. It was, I think, plus 180, so almost 2-1 on that. So I got a little bit of that on Wednesday or Thursday before qualifying, so that was good. And so yeah, it was definitely the biggest win of the year, and it was nice to like I said, actually have paper tickets. It's something different when you're at Vegas and you actually have paper tickets in your hand versus just getting on your app. My app, my Hard Rock app here in Florida. So it was great, man. But yeah, it was a willpower weekend. Worked out kind of just Mac. I would have expected him to be up there. On him, I think he probably had one of the best cars. I don't know exactly what happened. It was hard for me to follow everything out there in Vegas because I was a little preoccupied. But I know he changed the engine. I know something bad happened in qualifying. But I also saw that he came from like 20 something to 7th or something. So I would have expected he would have been very, very strong. So I don't know what happened in qualifying, but I would have expected him to be there. But the second Ferrucci got the pole, I knew that was an immediate fade, which made Power's number even bigger. So I just jumped all over the Penske cars, and that seems to be the winning ways. Like, bet Penske cars this year. They just Penske cars and Palou. I mean, that's the formula. Mix in a little Pato every now and then, maybe a little Dixon, and you should be able to make money. So having a really good year with IndyCar betting this year. So yeah, so going to do the same thing next week. The Penske cars, I think they were 1, 2, 3 in testing in Milwaukee, like crushing cars by 2-3 seconds is what I recall seeing. So the second I see lines come out from Milwaukee, I hope the books post Palou as the favorite because he's not going to win an oval. So he's not stupid. He'll collect his top 5 probably and move on in the championship. But yeah, I'll be rooting big time for Power in the championship. I'll be rooting for Power again. I have some hedge options because I have Power a championship bet. If you recall the 500, we talked about betting Power 9-1 to win the title instead of betting him to win the 500. So I have a Power championship ticket in my pocket. So I can kind of maybe, hedge a little bit with some Palou bets to make sure I lock in some profit. But this weekend, I'm going to go right back to the short oval specialists in Joseph and Scotty and Will.
Yeah, great segue there. I'm surprised, Mike, that Josh, who makes frequent trips to Vegas, you guys haven't ran into each other. Kind of surprised with that, but I know Josh is a little more advanced when it comes to the betting side. So, Josh, when you look at Milwaukee this weekend, obviously outside of Penske, who Mike just touched on and we touched on earlier, is there anyone else that you would ask Mike about for betting advice this weekend?
Not really. I mean, Penske's who I'm going to look at this weekend. The McLaughlin's always the favorite because for some reason he's just so good at that at the oval tracks, and for the next 3 weeks he'll probably no matter where he starts in the field, I'll probably put money on him just because he's Newgarden. What am I thinking of? I'm sorry. I'm so tired. It's been a long day. Newgarden, not McLaughlin. Newgarden is who I'm going to put all my money on. My money's going on Newgarden this weekend, but for both, you can already put it down. I'm going to pick Newgarden to win both races and Palou to come in a top 3. But other than that, and no other, unless it's Andretti. Occasionally an Andretti car will get up there occasionally and do well. But other than that, Newgarden's who I'm sticking with this weekend.
Michael, but Josh's pick is this weekend, so the cat's out of the bag. Michael, any betting questions that you have? I have one. I know David Malukas, who's been had success on short tracks. Any interest there with David Malukas and Meyershank Racing?
No, because those guys, they're good. Malukas, Ferrucci, they're good oval drivers. They got big balls. They do well on those tracks. but they just don't win because they'll just lose time in the pits. Like they're just, they can qualify well, they can pop in the top 5, a top 10, but the race is going to be won by the big teams ultimately. Pato is another guy. If I'm looking outside of Penske, I'm going to look at O'Ward on these short tracks. He's really good. But remember, we got a doubleheader, right? Am I wrong about that? Doubleheader, right? Okay. Yeah. So you can see my mind's still half in Las Vegas. But save your bankroll for the second race, right? So if people are listening to this, they want to see how to bet. Like you can learn a ton in the first race, especially if something wonky happens. Joseph or Scotty or Will Power's dominating and I don't know, something weird happens in the pits, just jump right back on them in the second race. Or maybe the second race, maybe they didn't qualify as well. I'm not sure what they're doing with the qualifying format, if it's just the same as Iowa where they did like the 2 laps and it's sometimes you can get guys at bigger numbers if they're fast in that first race. So I'll be betting both races, but I usually have like 2 to 1 more money on the second race just because you got to watch, you got to learn, and you know what's going on. And the first race, I think also, like I'd say, bet guys at the front because guys are going to want to make sure they take care of their cars and get through the race. So nobody's going to do anything too crazy, I think, in that first race. And they want to get through it, especially the points guys. But yeah, so I think it's another opportunity, a couple more opportunities to make some money, and I don't. Hopefully it goes the same as last weekend.
Michael, you have anything for Mike before we get him out of here?
No, you kind of touched on it with Pato. That's where I was going to ask because he's normally pretty good on the on those short ovals.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for Pato. He's won one race this year technically, and I bet him for that race, but I didn't get paid out, so it's still fresh in my mind. That went down. Maybe actually that's not true. He won that other race, and we had money on him in that race. So I'll probably if they post a big, it's all about the number, right? Like if Pato's, gosh, off the top of my head, 7-8 to 1, something like that. He might be. He's fallen down in the championship. He hasn't performed well. Like that's a good number, I think, to grab him ahead of time. If he's like 3 to 1, 4 to 1, I'll wait till after qualifying. And it's probably not going to get too much worse, even if he puts it on pole. So it's all about the number. If any of the Penske boys are not, Palou will be the favorite, which is wrong. Joseph probably be the second favorite. Maybe those are flip-flopped or they're co-favorites potentially, but we'll have to see what the sports books post. So as soon as they get to post the odds, I'll post it on Twitter, or people now beat me to it. Got enough people following me, I think, that know the deal. So, as soon as they come out, we'll get it posted and we'll see what's out there. And then we'll start firing some bets and try to win some money.
Mike, good stuff as always. I'm not sure if you or Tony is going to have a spaces this weekend due to the doubleheader. So I would imagine just keep locked in on your Twitter or X account, and you'll post that if you and Tony decide on that. Correct?
Yep. Yeah, we'll post that. Tony and I are always talking, trying to figure it out. Usually, sometimes I think he's at the track, and I'll be at the beach sipping cocktails this weekend. So we'll see if we can hook up. He's the one that, I don't know, we got a bone to pick with Tony. He's the one that convinced me I got a hedge on Palou with those big tower tickets. So it was the right call. I was sitting pretty the whole race and never was in doubt I was going to make some money. But yeah, so yeah, we'll post it. We'll if anything, no matter what, I'll have a betting card. I always post a betting card up as I see the before the race.
I don't know, that sounds awful rough sitting at the beach watching IndyCar. I'm going to tell you that right now. It just sounds awful rough. But Mike, a huge thank you as always for joining us. So we'll talk in 1 week's time. And hopefully everybody out there that's listening can make some money.
Have a good one, guys.
All right, good stuff there from Mike. Always follow him on Twitter for all of your betting advice, if it's IndyCar or if it's anything else. He does a tremendous job covering all aspects of sports when it comes to betting. That's for sure. We do have our weatherman coming up here shortly. But fellas, we are getting into Milwaukee. Obviously, doubleheader this weekend. We've been talking about it here just a few minutes ago. This is what the track is going to look like, obviously, and there have been a few past winners that are still active here on the NTT IndyCar Series. I know Will Power comes to mind, and Scott Dixon, just to name a few, and that's really about it. As for past winners, let me see if I can pull up a little bit of information. And I do have a video I think be interested in. iRacing did a breakdown of the Milwaukee Mile in an Indy car, and I was able to pull that. So after we get the weather report, I'll play that, and then if there's anything else left that we need to go over before the checkered flag flies, we will definitely hit that before the show ends. But the legendary Milwaukee Mile is on the grounds of the Wisconsin State Fair Park in West Allis, Wisconsin. It is a 1 mile oval that truly drives more like a road course because of its 9-degree banking in the turns, which produces some of the most exciting racing on the planet. Drivers can't go flat out on the course, which creates overtaking opportunities in the turns as well as the straights. The Milwaukee Mile opened in 1903, and little has changed to the configuration as of today. So definitely one of the older tracks here on the NTT IndyCar Series. Glad to have Milwaukee back. Obviously, it's been a while, fellas, since the NTT IndyCar Series has last been at Milwaukee. So I think we're going to be in for a exciting race. Obviously, a doubleheader. So we'll have a Saturday night and Sunday afternoon race. But either one of you two want to comment on maybe what you're looking forward to this weekend in both doubleheaders on Friday and Saturday?
Well, I know for me it's a Saturday race because I love watching IndyCar under the lights. I wish they had more races that were under the lights. I would love to see them go back to Texas and be under the lights. I remember back in the day, I may have caught a stray race here or there that was at Texas under the lights. It just looks the cars look so nice. And then another thing that I'll be interested in is seeing the turnaround from a Saturday night race going into a Sunday afternoon race. What problems can they correct? Can the crews correct that they had on Saturday night so that they can win on Sunday? So those two things, seeing the quick turnaround and the night race, those are my two biggest things. Can't wait to see.
Yeah, the quick turnaround is one thing for sure. That is always interesting. Those teams work very hard overnight to get those cars re-prepped for the next race. I just checked the weather because I wanted to know if it was going to rain before the weekend because the NASCAR Truck Series and the ARCA Series was there this past weekend. So I wanted to know if all that Goodyear rubber would wash off the track before the IndyCar Series got there. It does look like it's going to rain a couple of days, which is nice to get that washed off. Just see how much Firestone rubber can get rubbered in for qualifying. I believe they are doing qualifying the same way that they did for Iowa. So I'm not a big fan of that format, but I guess it's quick. It works for the teams, but I would like two different, I guess, qualifying sessions, and then the degradation of the tires to see how long they last with that track being as old as it is.
Well, Michael, again, great segue because speaking of weather, the official weatherman of the Push to Pass podcast has stepped into the room. IndyCar weather. Always glad to have you, and hopefully you'll be able to give us a better forecast for Wisconsin this weekend than we're having this heat wave that is barreling down central Indiana.
Yeah, good evening, guys. Thanks for having me on. And that's, two great points there, right? So the first one being, timing is everything. I think I posted that in a Twitter post earlier today or yesterday. The heat index in Milwaukee today topped out at 107 degrees. So just sweltering, miserable, humid heat. So, but we do have some relief on the way in the form of a cold front later this week. And, to Michael's point, yes, so we're going to get some rain, Wednesday, Thursday, and early Friday. So I think that cold front will probably be passing through by Friday morning, and it's going to carry some thunderstorms and showers with it through the Milwaukee area. And right now, I think the timing on that is that it'll be clear about 8 or 9 a.m. on Friday morning. That could change, keep an eye on it. But for now, based on that timing, if we do have to do any track drying, it still looks like everything as far as the track schedule goes would stay on track. I think Indy Next is the first ones that use the track at 1:30, I think, on Friday. So plenty of time for those storms to go through, get things cleaned up, and it'll be a clean track essentially, assuming we get showers on station that pass through. So, and then following that, cooler air and drier air flowing into the area. And so I think we're looking at temps somewhere in the upper 70s to the low 80s in that range, and low humidity. So we're not going to really have to worry about those crazy heat index numbers and any mugginess really with the air. It should be pretty sunny and very pleasant out there. So I will note there's one additional system on Sunday, but right now it's really too far north to be a player. It really only gets as far south as about the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So I don't think it's a threat right now. It's just something that I'm keeping one eye on since we're still about 4 to 5 days out from Sunday. But for now, I mean, it is really the timing of the weather to work with the timing of the race events is just about as perfect as you could ask for, right? So we're going to break that heat and humidity that we've got now. We'll get the rain out of the way, and then we should be good to go through the weekend, assuming the forecast holds, right? So, but as of this evening, everything's lined up for a really good weekend, at least on the weather side.
Definitely a good outlook for the weekend. Hopefully, the plan sticks or stays as is. But if it does stray for some reason or the other, I'm sure people can go to your Twitter, X, or Threads and get a updated forecast by Friday. Correct?
Yep, 100%. You got it. That's the two sites I'm on right now.
All right, good stuff as always, Weatherman. Definitely look forward to talking to you on Tuesday, and like I said, hopefully the weather stays to what you got, because it looks like it'll be a great weekend for racing there in Milwaukee.
Yep, thanks a lot, guys. Have a good night.
All right, good stuff there. Make sure you're following the official Push to Pass podcast weather report there from IndyCar. Weatherman, definitely check him out on Twitter. Check him out on Threads as well. All right, before we end our show, like I said, I do have a video here from iRacing. It is a Milwaukee Mile track guide. So for people that may be unfamiliar with Milwaukee, like I said, it has been a couple years since the IndyCar series has been to Milwaukee. Let's give you a refresher, and maybe for people like me and Josh that haven't seen IndyCars at the Milwaukee Mile, it's a new beginning and maybe something we'll learn from here.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our track guide for this week. This week, we're at the Milwaukee Mile. Milwaukee Mile first opened in 1903. It's older than Indianapolis, and it's a very tough challenge. It's a very difficult track to drive. It almost drives like a road course. So we're going to take a couple laps here with Matt on board. You can see he gets a little bit loose going into turn 1 there. We are required to run single plane wings on short tracks, therefore there's going to be a lot less downforce in the corners. Heading towards turn 3 now, Matt's going to bring it down gently, but he applies the throttle a little too quickly and gets tight off the corner. So not the best launch off the corner. You want to be careful not to overdrive the car If you do drive it too deep into the corner, you will lose time by getting too tight. Here, Matt's got a pretty good balance here and gets a nice launch off of turn 2. Heading for turn 3 again. One thing you'll notice is sometimes we may downshift into 3rd gear, especially on worn tires. Obviously, this will only be the case if your car is set up to do so. Towards turn 1 again, nice entry, there's 3rd gear. Through a full fuel run, you will lose time, there will be tire degradation and fall off, therefore slower cornering speeds, therefore 3rd gear is going to get you a good launch out of the corners. And through turns 3 and 4, Matt's coming upon some traffic. Hey, who is that? Wonder who that is. Throughout the race run, you'll likely be in traffic most of the time, so we'll cover that and some other things in our quick tips. At 1 mile in length, you'll be driving in traffic and behind other cars for most of the race unless you are the leader, and even then, you'll eventually have to deal with lap traffic. It will be very difficult to follow and keep pace with a car in front of you due to aero push. Your finishing position is more likely going to be dictated by pit sequences and strategy calls, which we will discuss later on in this video. Otherwise, to manage behavior of the car in traffic, remember to use your in-car tools. Positive weight jack will help loosen the car behind traffic, but be careful not to use it too aggressively. A softer front bar can also be beneficial. If you do have a gap of clean air in front of you, focus on driving consistent laps with a good line. Even 1 car width off the apex, as you just saw there at Milwaukee, can add tenths to your lap time. On corner exits, wait for your tires to hook up, and then get on the throttle as soon as you can. Be careful not to touch the curbs, especially in 3 and 4, but it can also happen in turn 1 and 2, where if you hit the curbs, you might spin your car. Luckily, Matt recovers here. We also want to keep in mind that for starts and restarts, the tires are not going to be up to temperature, and there's going to be a lack of front end grip. Here I try and get on the throttle way too early, and hit the wall as a result. Normally at most ovals for the IndyCar, I would recommend finding clean air whenever possible. However, Milwaukee is an exception. At Milwaukee, you want to run the bottom because 1, it's less bumpy than the middle and high lane, and 2, there's far more grip on the bottom. Even running in traffic and dirty air, you're going to be faster than if you're trying to run the high side. So if you're fortunate enough to have a passing opportunity, the low side is going to be where it's going to happen most of the time. Most of the grip is there, it's pretty straightforward, pull alongside the other car, hold the bottom, and the car eventually on the outside is going to have to lift due to the lack of grip. So if we can't pass on the track, we can make passes through pit strategy. So one option that we have is an undercut. Of course, an undercut, we come in for the pits early, take fresh tires, and try and make up the difference on those fresh tires. We could also try an overcut, where if we can keep clean air in front of us, even on older tires, perhaps we can maintain a gap. And with that, that's our basic track guide for the Milwaukee Mile. If you'd like to read more information about the Milwaukee Mile this week on iRacing and the IndyCar, check below.
I know the most important part that Josh found interesting that when he was talking about tires at the end. I know that's where he was most paying attention to for sure. But hopefully, some of you that were unfamiliar with Milwaukee, like myself and Josh, were able to learn something from that. And I apologize to other people that may have already known what the Milwaukee Mile brings. But for that, fellas, well, I guess we got one more thing left. We do need to take a look at the schedule. My apologies, sorry. Schedule is right there. I know Mike touched on it a little bit ago. You'll have that high line practice there on Friday, like you do at Iowa, and then a normal practice session there. You see from 4:30 to 6:30, and then qualifying is going to take place Saturday afternoon, and then race number 1 there 6 o'clock Saturday evening, and then Sunday I believe is at 2:30. I think if memory serves me correctly. So, fellas, anything else you want to touch on? I see, Josh, that you pointed out that F1 was in Portland this weekend. So maybe Josh's attention was on the F1 race this past weekend in Portland, not the IndyCar race that was in Portland. Possibility?
No, I was just making the analogy that it was a boring race, as all F1 boring. Our races are boring to me because it's a follow the leader type of race. But I am not as sophisticated of a race fan as most, or as Michael is, because he probably found the race to be very energetic and very very eventful, whereas I did not. But I don't proclaim to be the go-to person on racing. I'll leave that all up to Michael and Derek.
Yes, I actually did find the F1 race exciting Sunday morning from the Netherlands, and then the IndyCar race was exciting as well. So I did want to touch on a comment that someone left. It's M12 times 12. What would you like to see when Fox takes over from NBC? I think that's still for me. I want consistency in the booth. NBC does a great job with that. I don't want like NASCAR did last year, or was that 2 years ago? No, last year, where they had a rotating cast of like a special third person come in every other week. I don't want that. I know it's going to happen, and I'm going to warn both you guys, because NASCAR does it and it's like a Fox thing. You are going to get all the IndyCar drivers are going to look like cartoons. It's just going to happen. They're all going to have six packs. They're all going to look like they've been in the gym all winter long, and they have not eaten anything except great food. So yeah, that's going to happen, unfortunately, but I despise that very much. I want like just a normal like headshot of the person, and just, a professional looking person, not someone that's been photoshopped. But you're going to get the cartoon guys. And I just want Fox to present the sport in a professional way, and also in a way that teaches new fans more about the sport. Like NBC right now, they're not touching a lot on the leader circle points, and I think that's a big thing for fans to understand. Just like the engine manufacturer points and things like that. A lot of fans don't know anything about that, and it's a big contribution to the sport. It's what helps grow the sport with the financial backing of those things. So I would just like for Fox to take on a role of presenting the sport, teaching even the point system. A lot of people don't even know how the point system in IndyCar works as well.
Well, yeah, I for one
Michael,
would
I think
love
those
to.
are great points to end on. I'm going to love the fact that Fox is not going to move IndyCar races to CNBC, because you guys absolutely know how I feel about IndyCar being on CNBC, because, again, as I said for the 100th time, first of all, I didn't know CNBC still existed, and I didn't know people still watched CNBC. But to your other point about making the IndyCar drivers look like cartoons and having six-packs, well, unless any of our fans or audience have met us, that's how we look. So, I mean, there's not going to be any difference between us and the IndyCar drivers. So, I mean, okay, maybe we don't have those. It was attempted a bad joke, but anywho, huge thank you to everybody that tuned in today. Everybody that listened. I know we were up to about 25 listeners, so huge thank you to all of you that tuned in live. Also, huge thank you to everyone that commented as well. I did see the comments were flowing there as well. And then for people that'll tune in on a later time, later date, huge thank you to everyone for that as well. Also, huge thank you to Mike for joining us, as he always does, on the betting aspect of IndyCar, and then the weatherman joining us to give us his official weather report for this weekend's race. And then also huge thank you both to Josh and Michael for the contributions day in and day out, week in and week out, that both of you make to the Push to Pass podcast, for making this one of the better IndyCar podcasts in the podcast community. So for myself, Josh, Michael, and everyone else here that makes up the Push to Pass podcast. We will be back in 1 week's time to analyze, discuss, and break down what we witnessed this coming weekend in Milwaukee for the Milwaukee Mile 250s. So until then, so long, everybody.